Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some of you from different parts of the world, and welcome to our webinar. I heard we have some early risers with us today. It's like a mix of Merger Camp and Super Week at the same time. Thank you for taking time today to join us. Let's give a few minutes to let everyone who's going to join to be joined. Meanwhile, I'll share my screen. So we're all set. To be compliant with the topic of a webinar, first I'll be happy to get a consent to listen to what I'm going to say. So please send me a plus in the chat if you hear me well and give me consent to hear about the GDPR. Just to let you know, there's a slight delay between the translation. So as soon as you send any notes or questions, feel free to send them to the chat. I'll see them in like 20-30 minutes. Oh, seconds. Great. Thank you. Let's begin. So I would love to know a bit more about you. So it would be great to hear a few words about your position experience. It led me to personalize some technical, legal, analytics topic. I'll be happy to cover all of them. So let's jump to the presentation. I did my best to convince my kids that digital analytics is fun. So in order to do it, I used the cartoon characters to give the idea that analytics could be fun. And analytics with GDPR is more than fun. So let's double check in practice. In a few words about me, this photo was taken 30 years ago, about 30 years ago. It was like 2006, if I'm not mistaken. Three things are under construction here. So as you can see on the left side, it's me, and not just me, but AUVAX on the left side is under construction on this HP laptop. Family financial analytics report on the right side is under construction at the same time, and parents' country house behind us is under construction at that moment as well. So in AUVAX, we believe that every decision maker has to deal with data freely. Neither software or analysis resources should be a bottleneck. So we're really happy to share our insights and experience that we have been taking during consultancy, enterprise, and SMB customers in order to help everyone to deal with data. I'm in person, founded AUVAX and started with just website development. So my background is pure like software engineer. And we started doing marketing analytics consultancy a while. And in 2016, driving by tons of customers' feedback, we created finally our product. Now we're proud to be ranked as a leader by GT Crowd. We are highest rated e-commerce analytics and easiest to use marketing analytics software. It's just, to give you a brief overview there of experience and my personal opinion come from. Let's talk a while about good old days in digital analytics. A few years ago, everyone who worked in digital analytics imagined upcoming years as beautiful world, right? And future where data is everywhere, data personalization. So I believe everyone like took part in some analytics conferences, IRC, one of the biggest e-commerce conferences, and all the booths was with the words like data personalization and data analytics. Well, with edtech, tech development rapidly. Yet, what we know about those good old days, in terms of data collection, the numbers that sounds like themselves. 99% of all websites use Google Tag Manager to send data, whatever they want. And 85% use Google Analytics for that data collection. So it's a huge number. It's almost, majority of the market share that particular vendor is dominated in order to collect and manage, data destination services. Regarding to the data processing, almost everyone use ETL, right? Cloud ETL. I know if you have experience to work with some on-premises, but almost everyone now use Google and some Google Cloud, AWS, Azure, and other cloud services in order to manage their data. And it was really easy to define some keys to use them to join data and build any reports that you want. And the one really important thing that we'd like to mention, that it would never be a problem to deliver that data directly to any visualization tools like Google Data Studio or Google Sheets. So, it's so easy compared to nowadays to deal with data without any external requirements compared to the one that we have at this moment. So let's jump to nowadays. Today, we do have put some extra efforts to keep working data with users, right? To do working with users' data. Well, we don't have flying cars, right? And data personalization is not everywhere, for sure. By the way, could you please share with me in the chat what questions come to your mind today as soon as you start thinking about data collection, data processing, and data transformation? So which questions and which challenges you faced recently, please? While I prepared this presentation, I took a while with colleagues of mine, with some opinion leaders in the market, and I'll be happy to share a few questions that I believe every one of you are familiar with. For instance, today we have to answer the following tricky questions, right? Like, what kind of consent do I have to ask to track UTM parameters? It is essential to use UTM parameters in order to match sessions of your website with conversions and match them with campaigns. Also, it's hard to answer to which endpoints can I send those users' data to. And well, as you probably heard, you have to double check what kind of services you use before you send the data there. Well, so it's not the last part that we have to ask ourselves those questions. The second part regarding to the way to track unconsent users, if we really cannot capture any kinds of data, or there are some that we still can gather in. Let's jump to the data processing stage. So how to make sure that European customers' data is processed in EU? It's one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves as well. And to make sure that the data and PI data flow through all my data pipelines and transformation on the right way. So it's not just about the collecting data, it's about the management, the transformation, all the things related to data governance. So the last but not the least, regarding the data reporting. So for those of you who have really had conversation with your legal teams, I believe ask yourself the question like this. You know how frustrating it might to provide a clear answer what's going on with PI data on its journey, and I'll do my best to share our experience and give you tips and advices how to cover those questions and what are the useful resources that you feel free to use, to handle those questions. Well, so for those of you who work in international companies, the one more tricky question: how do I build a roll-up reports for all the regions, right? So for international companies, for sure, collecting data in the different occasions, but at the end, you would like to match them and join in one single report. And if I may, one of the the most analytical question, not the legal one, is why direct traffic and share of new users are unexpectedly increasing. This observation is also impacted by GDPR and cookie restrictions. So let's do our best now to cover all those questions above and make your life easier. Let's start with data collection, and please feel free to share your questions and any kind of topics that you would like to deep in during this presentation. I'll do my best to answer them, and time to time I will switch to the chat so I'll be able to read them. So data collection. First of all, let's check out our geo reports in Google Analytics. We understand that we have to understand which regions the website visitors are from. We definitely have to start with countries where visitors most commonly come from. It's not about every word, every business have some specific domains and the regions. I believe everyone knows there you can find those reports and check it out and define the list of that kind of countries. Secondly, and that's the thing become even more interesting, let's learn more about data protection laws for those regions. Thanks God, there's a great website that I'm happy to share to you, which combines all the laws and regulations all around the world and makes it easy to answer the question which laws you have to follow in order to be compliant in a specific country. So, by the way, please feel free to send any kind of links. Promotions are welcome to the resources that makes data analysts and lawyers life easier in order to deal with local laws and restrictions. This one resource is highly recommended in order to find the comprehensive list of all the regulations. Well, so once what's above mentioned is covered and we have to duplicate all those requirements from different countries, we can check out this website. It's a really good one in terms of find the crossing between different laws in different regions. So I should say that everywhere who got a link to those websites from me was thankful, as it was easier to build a unique list, actually, the unique list of requirements for your website with this platform. If you know some extra websites, please feel free to send them to the chat as well. Well, at the end of this stage, we figure out all the privacy restrictions, no matter to which platform we're going to send data. It's not about Google only, right? So finally, we have to implement this consent. There's a really easy way to implement those rules with the help of third-party tags or some third-party products which are integrated with Google Tag Manager. Please feel free to check them out and follow this link just in order to find this list. I do believe that some of you prefer to use external tag managers, but let me recap them this way. During the data collection stage, we have to cooperate with our legal department and decide what kind of data we are willing to send for consent users and for unconsent. Well, finally, we are on the data processing stage. And as far as everyone knows, we start with GTM or some tag manager and Google Tag Manager, and Google Analytics. So the point is that nowadays we cannot just send OPI data to GA. Even if the data from your Google Analytics is exported to Google BigQuery that is located in European Union, there are a lot of European Union locations are supported by Google BigQuery. So even in this case, you have to adjust Google Analytics in order to prevent send PI data directly to Google Analytics without a proper setup. So it's not a hardest task. So all you need is just go over this checklist. Here is it. Go over this checklist and accept new Google DPA, disable data sharing settings, and most important part, ghost hits. By the way, who of you knows ghost hit? Please send the note or just a plus if you have heard about ghost hits before. You have to turn it off as well with your Google Tag Manager configuration. Not everyone heard about them. And Google Signals have to be disabled as well. So, by the way, I'll share the direct link to this presentation at the end of this deck. So feel free to check all the links and feel free to use it. Well, so as soon as we set up all the data collection properly in a Google Analytics, we faced with another challenge. We don't want to lose the data that we have to deal with in order to build the reports. So the point is that as soon as we turn on all these settings and fill out some really important data is nowhere to be found in GA. It really depends on how you configure your GA. However, you find out that Google BigQuery expert start missing some of the data. I'm talking about granular location, some PI data, user custom dimensions that you probably need for certain reports, and most important, to join your BigQuery data with CRM data. So in order not to lose this data, you can send it through the server-side cookieless tracking. This icon represents OXBI, but feel free to use your own setup in Google Cloud Platform. The most important part that it should be located in the European Union. So you have to to filter out and decide what kind of data you are willing to send to your storage in the European Union, not outside. And unconsent users data have to be sent to GA. You're ready to go. There's nothing wrong here. Let's go through. And by the way, I'm curious regarding to the server-side tag manager. May I ask you if you have heard the question, why does not the number of transactions in GA matches the CRM? So I mean discrepancy between Google Analytics and CRM. As far as I know, most of the data analysts really hate this question because, there's no simple answer, right? Well, so we're getting to the Google Tag Manager, any kind of server-side tag manager. We're lucky to have open source Google Tag Manager that we can roll out in Google App Engine or Google VM Machine. And I believe almost everyone has heard about it. The thing that we would like to cover is this tag. So if you're a new one, just in terms of the rollout Google Tag Manager server side, feel free to check out this free tag. This is free tag from our company. It allows you to stream data to Google BigQuery in GA4 format, just in order to catch it and send it not through the JavaScript and client side, but through the server side. Based on our experience, server-side tracking increases accuracy of acquisition campaigns by 20%. So there is a huge advantage to collect data through the server-side tracking or the client one, not in terms of the privacy perspective only, but from a business perspective, you get a better accuracy tracking. Well, let's switch a while to the chat. Give me a second. Okay. Thanks for process. Let's discuss this part of this schema. So this part is about the server-side tag manager that covers the pixel tracking to the third-party ad services. Because I believe you would like to take control of all the data you send, not just to analytics service, but to all third-party ad services like Bing and Facebook. So it's how to export the data in a way that fits regulation. You filter out unconsent data. And with this approach, you get the totals. So if you just filter out all unconsent data, you lose the significant part of page views of transactions, and nothing wrong to collect non-PI data for like unconsent users. Let's have a joking minute. Turn paranoia mode. For instance, we can hear the question from our legal team. How do we make sure that nobody can access to our visitors' PI data? And at this point, there is also a solution. You can turn on customer managed cloud KMS keys and then encrypt. So it means you can encrypt your data in order to prevent anyone from getting access to your data. So all your disk in Google Cloud and even data in Google BigQuery will be encrypted. So to be honest, I haven't encountered any organization that would still have any doubt on using GCP once they have followed all the mentioned recommendation. However, someone might say, hey, this is all interesting, but we would like to prevent any Google service from gaining our website visitors' data. Well, and you know what? There is a solution that will work for such people. And the only thing that you have to do is to add a few lines of code to your web server configuration. However, I wouldn't recommend doing this on your production server. And certainly I ask your IT department to consult your lawyers first, because it means you like block all the Google Chrome users to visit to your website. Full disclosure, that's kind of joke. Do not try to repeat it in a production. It's just a hint that you technically cannot prevent to gathering all the data of your visitors on the website once you can have control over your website visitors' browsers. Let's jump to more practical questions. Google BigQuery data schema with consent mode. Well, how does consent mode looks like? Google Tag Manager, and once it's integrated with GA, it sends consent mode value in GCS parameter, and analytics tracking requires G101 and G111 value in order to be tracked for analytics purposes, PI data. So this parameter has a list of possible like values. However, only those values means that you are able to track data for analytics purposes. However, if your if your website visitor hasn't given this consent, you still can store this data, but without API. It means no consent, no PI tracking. It's like your web server logs. They contain even IP addresses and user agents, but don't have any unique user IDs. Well, let's have a look how it works. So first of all, each hit has new client ID and user OWASP ID in like OWASP BI use case. Also, granular location data should be unavailable once you store this data. I mean, city, latitude, longitude, browser, and user again, device information. All this data cannot be stored for analytics purposes. Well, so just to give you an idea how the data structure can looks like, here's the dedicated field that contains the value of GCS parameter. And for unconsented users, some of the fields have to be left blank or null if you wish. Yep. So here's a screenshot from Google BigQuery. Just to give you an idea how it looks like. And why you need it, because I'll talk about it in a while. You need to understand what kind of data you have been collected from consent users and from non-consent in order to build modeled conversions. I'll unpack this idea on the final slides. It's out of the major topic of this presentation. However, please take note that you able to collect the criteria if the data is related to the consent user or unconsent. Well, let's jump to the data reporting. So data reporting starts with data lineage. Here's a screenshot from our product. You might have a different one. So for those of you who don't know, data catalog is a way to organize your inventory of data assets, especially the ones that contains PI data. You have to have a clear mark and some indicator of what type of PI data is it. For instance, you might encrypt it. Let me show you how it looks like. Here's it. So you can encrypt it, you can decrypt it, or you can hash it, right? It depends on how you are going to use it. And secondly, you would like to have a clear answer who's the owner of this data, because you would like to send your questions to the right person, right? For instance, I set myself as owner of visitors data. So now it's easy to understand who is the owner and what kind of fields are related to PI data. They're just marked here this way. And by the way, the great news that Google Cloud offers a very simple way to use column K encrypted without any need to rewrite all the SQL from the scratch. So finally, you'll be able to, first of all, get all the data into Google BigQuery. Secondly, filter the PI data for unconsented users. The next point that you're able to cover is not to lose your unconsented or non-PI users' data in order to get totals to build, for instance, roll-up reports. And we have to have answer to our legal department how our data flows through all the pipelines. It's not just about the way to collect the data. That's it about data collection, data processing, and data reporting. But as everyone knows, the most important part is to put the data into the action. That's why let's cover in a few words how to deal with data once you get from it in the right way. I'm curious to hear what you would like to hear next on our upcoming webinar. There are a few ideas. So first of all, how to make your conversion modeling. So why you need it? Because disabling the collection of granular location and device data actually significantly reduced your model conversion volume. So I believe everyone faced with the challenge that, for instance, Facebook ads reports free conversion, Google ads reports for conversion, but in total you'll get in Google Analytics just 5. So you have to deal with this somehow in order to provide clear and actionable report for your marketing team. So by the way, please let me know in the chat if you ever heard a question about totals mismatch from marketers. We as a consultancy and a product company, we heard this question a lot. It's actually because they work separately, and there is no unique cookie that allows to duplicate every user. Moreover, as soon as you turn on, privacy settings, the situation becomes even worse. Well, so you definitely faced with this challenge. And second idea to be covered on our upcoming webinar is rollout reporting. For instance, once you collect data in your location and some of your data in US location, you have to join this data on the right way. You cannot just to transfer data between regions without breaking the law. So Geller asks, are you able to provide ID graph? So for sure, you cannot provide ID if you mean user IDs graph for all the users, especially for non-consent users. There is no any PI data here. As you can see, user icon is missed here. It means that you don't have any IDs related to specific user. So that's why you can just to build this one graph in order to figure out how your data flows, but not the graph in order to build, for instance, cross-device user profile. So feel free to let us know in comments beyond this video, or to send it in email what kind of topics you would like to hear on our upcoming webinar. And as a promise, feel free to download this presentation with all the links to the materials that I mentioned. Here is the compliance checklist that we prepared for you, and we use it for all of our customers, and we are happy to share it with the one who is interested to implement GDPR compliance with Google Tech Stack as well. And I think we're all set. Let's pause for a while, just in case if some questions come in. It's a really short and simple URL. I believe you can remember it easily. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your questions. We'll be happy to see your upcoming webinar, and good luck with compliance and GDPR implementation. All the best.